The arrival of the human. The twin suns of Zerathia were setting, painting the alien sky in shades of purple and gold. High above the royal city of Varthion, a strange light appeared. It was not a comet nor a starship from any known world. It moved slow, steady, and deliberate, like something alive. The citizens stopped and stared as the object descended, leaving a glowing trail behind. When it touched the ground outside the royal walls, the earth trembled slightly. A cloud of dust rose, and from it stepped a human. He wore a plain black suit with a silver badge that read Earth Expedition Unit 7. His name was Captain Ryan Hale. For a moment, there was silence. Then laughter echoed through the courtyard. The three royal sisters, Lyra, Seren, and Kale, stood on a crystal balcony above. They were tall, elegant, and otherworldly, their eyes glowing faintly with blue light. Lyra, the eldest, smirked. "So this is the creature from Earth? I expected more," she said, her voice dripping with amusement. Seren laughed softly. "He looks fragile. Are humans always this small?" Kale, the youngest and most mischievous, tilted her head. "Maybe he's lost. Perhaps his kind travels in toys." Their mocking voices echoed through the open space. But Ryan did not react. He looked up at them with calm eyes, gray and sharp like storm clouds before thunder. The royal guards surrounded him, their weapons humming with light. The captain raised his hand slowly, showing no threat. "I come in peace," he said in a calm, clear voice. "I bring knowledge from Earth. I seek to learn, not to fight." The aliens around him exchanged glances and laughter. To them, humans were a backward species, weak, emotional, bound by gravity and fear. High upon his throne, King Varen, ruler of Zerathia, watched in silence. His expression was unreadable. The king had seen countless beings visit his world, but never a human. "Bring him forward," the king commanded. Ryan was led into the grand hall. The walls shimmered like liquid metal, and the air smelled of strange flowers. The sisters followed, their eyes full of curiosity and hidden pride. Lyra leaned toward her father. "Father, why waste your time on him? His world has barely left its own orbit." Varen didn't reply. His eyes stayed fixed on the human who now stood before him. "Tell me, human of Earth," the king said. "Why do you come to Zerathia?" Ryan took a deep breath. "Our world is learning," he said. "We have found signals, old signals, from your people. We followed them here. We wish to understand who sent them and why." The king frowned. "Old signals?" Ryan nodded. "Yes, they were ancient messages, patterns of energy hidden in space. Some of our scientists believed they came from the first Zerathians. Others said it was just cosmic noise. I had to know the truth." For a moment there was quiet. Then Kale burst out laughing again. So he followed a ghost story across the stars. "Humans truly are foolish." Ryan smiled faintly but said nothing. His calmness made the sisters uneasy. Seren folded her arms. "Even if what you say is true, what do you expect to find here? Do you think we'll share our secrets with a primitive species?" Ryan's tone was soft but steady. "No. I think you'll share them when you see what we have become." The king raised an eyebrow. "And what is that, human?" Ryan met his gaze. "Adaptable." The word hung in the air like an echo. Lyra's smile faded. There was something unsettling about him, something quiet but powerful. She studied his face and noticed small scars, signs of struggle and survival. Humans were said to be weak, yet this one carried the calm of someone who had faced storms. Outside the hall, the light began to fade. The second sun dipped below the horizon and the alien moon rose, glowing blue. The king turned to his advisors. "Test him. If he lies, we'll know soon enough." Ryan was taken to the science chamber. Strange machines scanned his body, reading his DNA and energy. The scientists whispered in confusion. The results didn't make sense. One of them approached the king. "Your Majesty, his biology is unstable. It keeps adapting to our environment in real time. No species has ever done that before." The king looked at Ryan with new interest. The sisters fell silent. Ryan, standing in the center of glowing rings, looked calm as ever. "I told you," he said quietly. "Humans change faster than anyone believes." Kyle frowned. "That sounds like a threat." Ryan shook his head. "No, it's a promise." Thunder rumbled outside, though no storm was near. The lights flickered for a second. Lyra's eyes widened. "What are you?" she whispered. Ryan looked up at her and smiled. A slow, confident smile that sent a strange chill down her spine. "Just a human," he said. But that might be enough. The king leaned back on his throne, deep in thought. He had seen power, technology, and empires rise and fall, but never had a single word from a human made his heart tremble. As Ryan was escorted to his quarters for the night, the king spoke softly to himself. He's not ordinary, perhaps. This is the beginning of something far greater. Outside, the alien sky shimmered with strange light. The wind carried a whisper that only the stars could hear. And so began the story of a human who walked among gods and made them question everything they believed. The king's interest, the palace of Zerathia was silent that night, but silence on this world was never simple. It breathed. It watched. It remembered. The twin moons glowed above the black towers, and the wind carried whispers through the golden halls. Whispers about the human. Servants spoke in hushed tones. "He doesn't sleep," one said. "He stares at the stars like he's listening to them," said another. "Maybe he's a spy," someone whispered. "Or maybe he's something else." Inside a crystal chamber, King Varen sat before a giant holographic screen. It showed the human's readings, DNA patterns, energy waves, neural frequencies. But the data was unstable. Every second it changed, adapting, rewriting itself. The royal scientist bowed deeply. "My king, his body is reacting to our atmosphere like no other creature. It's not just surviving, it's learning." Varen's eyes narrowed. "Learning?" "Yes, sire. When we exposed him to Zerathian air, his blood created new oxygen cells. When we used radiation to test his limits, his body generated energy shields. Every test makes him stronger." The king stood slowly. The light from the screen reflected in his silver armor. "Impossible," he muttered. "Humans were never known for power. Only persistence," the scientist hesitated. "Perhaps persistence is their power, Your Majesty." At that moment, the doors opened with a soft hum. The three royal sisters entered, their robes shimmering like liquid starlight. Lyra, the eldest, spoke first. "Father, the court is restless. Everyone speaks of this creature. He embarrasses us by existing." Serene crossed her arms. "He's not one of us. He doesn't belong here." Kale smirked. "I think he's fascinating. So fragile, yet still breathing, like a puzzle that refuses to break." The king didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, then he said quietly, "You mock what you do not understand." The room fell silent. Even the sisters, usually bold, said nothing. Varen turned toward them. "You call him weak. But tell me, if he's weak, why do the machines fear him?" The sisters looked confused. The king continued, voice calm but heavy. "When the human walked through the scanning chamber, the machines stopped. They said error. Nothing in this galaxy has ever made them stop." A chill passed through the air. Lyra frowned. "Perhaps it's a malfunction." The king shook his head. "Or perhaps it's a warning." Meanwhile, deep inside his guest quarters, Captain Ryan Hale stood at the window, staring at the twin moons. His hands were clenched behind his back. He whispered to himself, "They still don't see it. They think I came here to beg, but soon they'll understand what humans truly are." A soft voice spoke behind him. "You talk too much for someone under guard." Ryan turned. Kyle, the youngest sister, stood by the door, her eyes glowing faintly blue in the dim light. "You shouldn't be here," Ryan said quietly. Kale smiled, stepping closer. "And yet I am. You interest me, human." "You act calm, but your heart beats faster when you're watched." "I can hear it." Ryan tilted his head slightly. "Then you know I'm not afraid." "No," Kyle said, studying him. "You're not, and that bothers me." She stepped even closer until the glowing veins on her wrist lit up faintly. "You don't belong in our world. You should be broken, yet you stand tall. What are you hiding?" Ryan looked her in the eyes. "Hope," he said softly. "That's something your world seems to have lost." Kale's expression flickered. She turned quickly and left the room without another word. Later that night, the king visited the observation deck, alone. The stars shimmered like cold fire. He remembered his youth, the wars, the blood, the endless search for power. Every race they met had something to offer except humans. But this one, this Ryan Hale, he was different. The king whispered to the stars, "What are you, human? A messenger? Or a weapon?" Suddenly, the air around him trembled. A soft hum echoed through the metal floor. The lights dimmed. The royal sensors activated on their own, displaying a glowing human-shaped energy pattern, Ryan's. The king frowned. What now? The reading spiked violently. Ryan's energy signature was rising on its own, like a storm building strength. Down in his chamber, Ryan sat cross-legged, eyes closed. His body glowed faintly blue, just like Zerathian's. He whispered words in an ancient human tongue. His veins pulsed with light. He was sinking, merging his body with the frequency of Zerathia. A sudden wave of power spread through the palace. Crystals vibrated, windows cracked. Guards stumbled as a pulse of invisible energy rushed past them. In the throne room, the king stood firm, his cape swirling in the storm of light. "Enough!" he roared. The lights calmed. The energy vanished. Silence returned. Then footsteps echoed. Ryan entered the throne room unharmed, his eyes glowing faintly blue, the same color as the royal bloodline. "Your Majesty," he said calmly, "you wanted to know what humans have become. Now you've seen it." The sisters stepped back in shock. Lyra whispered, "He carries our light." The king stared at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time in years, he smiled. "So the child of Earth carries the fire of the stars." Ryan's gaze was calm but piercing. "The fire was always there. We just learned to stop fearing it." The king nodded slowly. "Then let's see if your fire can survive our trials. Tomorrow, you will face the trial of shadows. If you survive, you'll earn your place among us. If you fail," Ryan interrupted softly, "then I die as human. And that's enough." A murmur ran through the hall. Even the sisters couldn't look away. As Ryan turned to leave, the king spoke again, his voice low and heavy with meaning. "You interest me, human. You remind me of something I once was, before I became a king." Ryan paused, then said quietly, "Maybe it's not too late to remember." And with that, he walked into the darkness while the king, for the first time in centuries, felt something unfamiliar rise inside him. Not fear, not anger, but hope. The human challenge. The trial of Shadow's morning came to Zerathia not with sunlight but with energy. 2 suns rose behind the crimson towers, painting the air with glowing particles. The whole city buzzed. Today was the trial of shadows, the deadliest test in the kingdom. And for the first time in history, it wasn't a warrior, or an alien prince, or a machine that would enter. It was a human. In the royal arena, thousands gathered. The floor was black glass, reflecting the light of floating crystals above. The air shimmered with heat and tension. King Varen stood high on his throne, surrounded by his daughters. Lyra crossed her arms. "He will not last a minute," she said coldly. Kyle smiled faintly. "I think he'll last too," Seren whispered. "Maybe he's already dead inside, and that's his strength." The king said nothing. His gaze stayed fixed on the gate below, the gate that was slowly opening. From the shadowed tunnel, Ryan Hale stepped into the arena. No armor, no weapon. Just his plain earth uniform, now torn and dusty from the previous night's chaos. The crowd roared with laughter. Some threw shards of crystal toward the sand, mocking him, but Ryan didn't look at them. He looked straight at the king and gave a small nod. The king raised his hand and the arena lights dimmed. The shadows began to move, not natural ones, but living darkness. "Let the trial begin," the king's voice thundered. The crowd went silent. From every corner of the arena, black creatures rose, made of smoke and light, shapeless yet hungry. They whispered in 1,000 voices. "Weak flesh, weak mind, weak soul." Ryan's pulse quickened. His breath turned white in the freezing air. He remembered the warning from the guards. The trial of shadows feeds on fear. He closed his eyes. So be it. The first shadow attacked, stretching like liquid smoke. Ryan ducked, rolled, and slammed his fist into it, but it passed through, reforming instantly. The crowd laughed. "Foolish human. You cannot fight the dark." But Ryan wasn't fighting. He was studying. Every time the shadow lunged, he moved faster, learning its rhythm, its sound, its breath. He spoke softly to himself. Patterns, energy, memory. It's alive, but not real. Then he did something no one expected. He closed his eyes. Lyra frowned. "What is he doing?" The king leaned forward, listening. The shadows circled, whispering louder. "You fear. You bleed. You break," Ryan whispered back. "Yes, but I stand." And suddenly his body glowed faintly blue. The arena gasped. His human skin shimmered with Zerathian energy. The same light that ran through the royal bloodline now pulsed in his veins. The shadow struck again, but this time they melted before touching him. The blue light burned through their darkness like dawn through fog. The crowd rose to its feet. Kale's eyes widened. "He's using our energy." "How?" Serene whispered. "No, he's not using it. He's copying it." Ryan opened his eyes, glowing now like twin stars. "Fear teaches faster than comfort," he said softly. "Thank you for the lesson." The largest shadow screamed, forming into a massive beast of darkness, wings like knives, voice like thunder. It dived toward him, roaring, "Human, you are nothing." Ryan stood his ground. His heart raced, but his fear didn't control him. It fueled him. He whispered, "Then let nothing become everything." And with that, he struck the ground. A shock wave burst outward. Blue energy ripped across the arena, shattering the black glass beneath his feet. The shadow beast screamed as light tore through it, dissolving it into sparks. When the smoke cleared, Ryan stood alone, calm, steady, surrounded by faint glowing dust. Silence. Then thunderous applause and disbelief. The king rose from his throne. His face was unreadable. "You have completed the trial of shadows, human. No one has ever done so. Alive." Ryan bowed slightly. "You said it was about strength." "It's not. It's about control. The shadow is fear. You don't destroy fear, you walk through it." The king's eyes glimmered with quiet pride, though he tried to hide it. "Perhaps you are not as primitive as we thought." Lyra, still staring, whispered. "He faced the dark without a weapon. He used nothing but will." Kyle smiled. "Maybe will is his weapon." As Ryan turned to leave, a strange hum echoed through the arena. The lights flickered again. Everyone looked up. The crystals above, the power source of the trial, were glowing brighter than ever. Then one by one they started to shatter. Ryan froze. The energy inside him pulsed in response. It wasn't over. The king shouted, "Guards! Shield the arena!" But before anyone could move, a final wave of energy exploded from the center. The same blue light, human and Zerathian combined, burst into the sky like a beacon. It reached beyond the planet's atmosphere, into the cold void of space. Far away, on an ancient satellite orbiting a dead moon, a forgotten human signal blinked to life. "Contact achieved. Phase 2. Awaken." Back in the arena, Ryan collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. His eyes dimmed back to gray. The king stared at him in shock. "What have you done, human?" Ryan looked up slowly, a faint smile on his lips. I just told the universe we're still here," the king whispered. "Still here. And watching." As the arena lights flickered back to life, the crowd remained silent. No one laughed anymore. For the first time in Zerathian history, they looked at a human, not with mockery, but with fear. The king's decision, the palace of Zerathia, was restless that night. The air itself trembled as if whispering secrets. The trial of shadows had ended, but no one could forget what they had seen. A human had done the impossible. He had faced fear itself, and won. In the grand hall, the king sat alone on his high throne, the light of 2 moons glimmering through the crystal windows. The echo of the trial still haunted him. For centuries, he had ruled a world of perfect logic, pure power, and absolute control. And yet a single human, fragile, mortal, had shaken the foundations of that order. The door opened softly. General Kor, the commander of the Royal Guard, entered and bowed. "Your Majesty, the crowd is still talking. Many call the human a miracle, others call him a curse." The king's voice was quiet but heavy. "A miracle or a curse, General, both are forms of power. And power must be understood." Kor hesitated. "Should I have him contained?" The king turned slowly, his eyes cold. "Contain him? No, he is not a threat to be locked away. He is a key waiting to be used." Meanwhile, in the royal guest chamber, Captain Ryan Hale sat on the floor, bruised but calm. His body still ached from the trial, yet his mind was sharper than ever. He looked at his reflection in the crystal mirror. For the first time, his eyes flickered faint blue again. Zerathian energy still lived inside him. He whispered, "You saw it too, didn't you? You felt it. There was no one in the room. Yet somewhere deep within the palace walls, sensors began to glow, responding to his voice, syncing to his heartbeat. The next morning, the palace was filled with tension. A royal summons had been sent to everyone, warriors, nobles, and the 3 royal sisters. When the golden horn sounded, all gathered in the hall of judgment. The king rose, his cloak trailing like a storm cloud. "Last night," he began, "we witnessed the impossible. A being from a lesser world survived the trial of shadows. He showed no weapon, no armor, no bloodline. Yet he prevailed." He turned toward Ryan, who stood calmly before the throne. "Tell me, human of Earth, what do you want from Zerathia?" Ryan met the king's gaze. "Understanding and peace. Nothing more," Lyra scoffed softly.
"Lies. No one risks death for understanding. What are you really here for?"
Ryan looked at her, then said slowly, "Because your people forgot what fear feels like. You replaced it with pride. That's dangerous." The room fell silent. The king's eyes narrowed. "Careful, human. You speak to gods." Ryan's tone didn't change. "Then maybe gods need reminding that mortals still matter." The words struck like lightning. Gasps echoed through the hall. Guards moved, but the king raised his hand to stop them. A long pause followed. Then, to everyone's shock, the king laughed. "Courage and foolishness often share the same face," he said. "But I like both." He stood, his deep voice filling the hall. "Zerathia has power, but no heart. Earth has heart, but little power. Together, perhaps we find balance." He turned toward his daughters, Lyra, Seren, and Kale. "You mocked him when he arrived. You saw weakness and called it truth. But weakness can hide strength," Lyra frowned. "Father, what are you saying?" The king raised his staff, its crystal tip glowing like fire. "I am saying this. To unite our worlds, there must be more than words. There must be bond." Serene's voice shook. "Bond? You don't mean—" The king's voice boomed through the hall. "I do. By royal decree, one of you shall be bound to the human, through marriage." The hall exploded in shock. "Father," Lyra shouted. "That's impossible. He's not one of us," Seren cried. "You can't be serious," Kyle whispered, eyes wide. The king's tone turned to iron. "It is done. The law of unity demands proof, and this will be that proof." The sisters turned toward Ryan. For the first time, their arrogance cracked, replaced by confusion and fear. Ryan stood silent, unreadable. The king looked at him and asked, "Do you accept, human?" Ryan's answer came softly, but it carried across the hall like thunder. "I accept." Kale took a step back. Lyra's fist clenched. Seren's eyes burned with disbelief. "You don't even know which of us it will be." Lyra snapped. Ryan met her gaze. "Does it matter? I didn't come here for love or politics. I came for truth. Maybe this is how I find it." The king nodded slowly. "Then it is settled. Tomorrow the stars shall decide who the bride will be. The ancient test of fate will choose the one who is worthy." The room filled with whispers. The sisters exchanged tense looks. None wanted this destiny. None wanted him. Yet something deep inside them was shifting. That night, Lyra stood alone on the palace balcony, staring at the human's chamber from afar. "He should have died," she whispered. "But he didn't." Kyle appeared beside her, silent for a while, then said, "Maybe death didn't want him." Lyra turned. "You sound almost impressed." Kale smiled faintly. "Maybe I am." Below, in the courtyard, Ryan walked slowly under the twin moons. The royal guards kept their distance. His shadow stretched long and strange against the glowing stones. He stopped, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "You wanted unity, King Varen. You'll get it, but not the way you expect." And far beyond Zerathia, in the dark silence of space, something stirred, an ancient satellite blinking again, its voice faint but clear. Signal confirmed. Earth protocol continuing. The sisters' plan, the royal city of Varthion, glittered beneath the twin moons, but the palace felt colder than ever. Tomorrow, the ancient test of fate would decide which of the three sisters would marry the human. No one slept that night. In the top tower, the sisters met in secret. A circle of silver light shimmered beneath their feet, an ancient chamber forbidden to outsiders. Lyra, the eldest, broke the silence. "We cannot let this marriage happen. A human cannot carry the blood of Zerathia." Seren's eyes glowed faintly. "Father has lost his mind." The court whispers behind his back. "If we let this human stay, he'll divide us." Kyle, the youngest, stood apart, tracing a glowing rune on the wall. "Or maybe he already has," she said quietly. Lyra turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Kale looked at her sisters, a half smile on her lips. "Since he came, Father speaks of peace, not power. The people look at him with hope. And hope, dear sister, is dangerous. Lyra's jaw tightened. Then we end it. Before it ends us. They devised a plan. 3 tests in one night. No blades, no blood, only the mind, the heart, and the will. If Ryan failed even one, the king would have reason to call off the union. Lyra would test his mind. Saren, his heart. Kale, his soul. The first test. Lyra's illusion. The moment Ryan entered his chamber, the world around him changed. The floor melted into endless stars. The air thick with whispers. Lyra appeared before him, cloaked in silver light. Welcome to your dream, human. Let's see if your mind is as strong as your mouth. Suddenly, Ryan stood on a battlefield, a memory from Earth. Smoke, fire, screams. His old squad, faces long dead, called out for help. You left us, Captain. You promised we'd live. Ryan's fists trembled. It was too real, too perfect. Lyra's voice echoed in his head. Every hero lies to someone, even himself. Admit it, and this ends. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly. You're right, he whispered. I did fail them. But I learned. I don't run anymore. The illusion cracked. The battlefield dissolved into mist. Lyra stumbled back, shocked. Ryan looked at her calmly. You can't break a man who's already faced himself. Lyra vanished, her pride shaken. For the first time in centuries, she felt respect. The second test, Seren's trap. When Ryan awoke, the palace seemed empty. The air shimmered with cold light. Seren appeared before him, wearing a flowing robe of white flame. I can see emotions, human, she said. Let me show you how useless yours are. She touched his forehead, and suddenly Ryan stood inside her mind, surrounded by visions of alien perfection. No pain, no love, no chaos, only stillness. This is purity, she said. No fear, no grief, no weakness. Can you let go of your pain to live like us? Ryan looked around the flawless world. It was silent, beautiful, empty. You call it peace, he said softly. I call it death with a pretty face. Seren frowned. You choose suffering? I choose meaning, Ryan replied. Without it, nothing matters. The illusion shattered like glass. Seren gasped, stepping back. For a brief moment, her chest ached with something alien. Emotion. Meaning, she whispered. I had forgotten what that feels like. The third test. Kale's truth, near dawn. Kale appeared quietly in his chamber. No illusions, no power. Just her. Ryan looked up from the balcony. You've come to test me too? Kale hesitated, then said softly, I came to understand you. She stepped closer. You faced our shadows, our fear, our pride. And still you stand. Why? What drives you? Ryan looked at the twin suns rising beyond the horizon. Every world I've seen forgets what it means to be alive. You build walls to hide from fear, but fear is what keeps us human. Maybe it should keep you alive too. Kale studied him quietly. The way he spoke. The way he didn't try to impress her. You talk like someone who lost everything, she whispered. Ryan smiled faintly. Maybe I did. Maybe that's how you learn what's worth saving. For a long moment, they stood in silence. The morning wind moved between them. Kale turned away quickly, hiding the strange warmth rising in her chest. Tomorrow, one of us will be forced to marry you. Maybe me, maybe not. Ryan shrugged lightly. I didn't come here to take someone's freedom. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'll still be me. Kale looked back, eyes searching his face for deception. She found none. The next day, as the king prepared the ceremony of the stars, the 3 sisters met again. But something had changed. Lyra's anger had cooled into thought. Seren was quiet, her mind filled with strange emotion. And Kale. She said nothing at all. Lyra looked at them both. He passed every test. Even mine, Seren nodded slowly. He carries no crown, no armor, but there's strength in him I can't explain. Kale whispered almost to herself. He's not like us. But maybe that's the point. In the royal hall, the king stood before his daughters. The stars will soon reveal who is chosen, he said. The bond must be honored. Ryan entered, his steps calm, his presence quiet but powerful. The crowd stared, no longer mocking but watching with something new in their eyes. The king raised his staff. Let fate decide. The ceiling above opened, revealing the twin suns merging into one beam of white light. It split into 3 threads, each moving toward one sister. The first faded before Lyra. The second dimmed before Seren. The third, brightest, of all landed upon Kael. Gasps filled the hall. The king smiled faintly. So it is written. Kael of Zerathia shall be bound to the human. Kael stood frozen. Lyra looked at her in shock. Seren exhaled slowly. Ryan met Kael's eyes and said quietly, "Looks like fate just joined our plans." Kael didn't reply. But deep inside, her heart, the one she thought she didn't have, beat faster. The truth revealed. The bells of Zerathia rang through the twin-sun sky, slow and heavy. The palace prepared for the royal union of Kael Zerathia and Captain Ryan Hale, the first binding between human and alien blood. Yet beneath the celebration, the world trembled. The calm. Before Ryan stood on the balcony of the guest tower, staring at the horizon. The sun's bled orange light across the clouds, but his mind was far away, somewhere between Earth and the stars. Behind him, Kael entered quietly. She wore a simple robe, her silver hair unbound. "They're decorating the city," she said. "Our names are carved on every wall." Ryan smiled faintly. "Strange way to celebrate a deal neither of us chose?" Kael leaned on the railing beside him. "Maybe fate chose for us." Ryan's tone sharpened. "Or maybe fate is just another word for control." Kyle glanced at him, puzzled. "You speak as if you know something we don't." Ryan didn't answer. He looked up at the faint shimmer in the sky, like a hidden network of light. "Your world isn't the only one being watched," he murmured. The hidden file later that night inside the royal archive. Lyra and Seren searched through the forbidden records. They couldn't sleep, haunted by the strange power Ryan had shown. "There must be a reason Father protects him," Seren whispered. "Then we'll find it," Lyra replied. They activated an ancient sphere of memory. Holograms flashed. Old wars, forgotten experiments, secret messages. Then a file appeared. Project Gaia, Earth Observation Protocol Y1. The sisters stared as the images formed. It wasn't human data, it was Zerathian. A message played dated 5,000 years ago. Subject: human species and stage 1 complete. Specimen DNA shows accelerated adaptive response. Continue remote evolution. Prepare recall when signal returns. Lyra's blood ran cold. They created humans. Seren's voice trembled. No, they designed them. Another line of text glowed. In time they will surpass their makers. The sisters froze. If Father learns what this means, Lyra began. He already knows, Seren whispered. The king's secret in the throne room, King Varen stood before a sphere of living light. Ryan was there too. So, Ryan said quietly, you kept the experiment going. You never told your people that humanity came from Zerathian seed. The king's eyes narrowed. You speak as if you remember it. I do, Ryan replied. Because the memory isn't yours anymore, it's ours. Your ancestors built us to adapt, to survive anything. And now that we've evolved beyond you, you call it destiny. The king's voice grew low. I call it correction. The universe needs balance. You humans were not meant to rise alone. Ryan stepped forward. Maybe not. But we learned something you never could, how to care. That's what makes us unstoppable. The king slammed his staff to the floor. Energy cracked through the hall. Care is weakness. It clouds judgment. Ryan's voice stayed calm. No, it gives us purpose. Without it, your empire is already dead. The lights dimmed. For a moment, both stood in silence. Creator and creation facing each other after millennia. The attack. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the palace. The floor shook. Guards rushed in shouting, Your Majesty! The outer barrier is collapsing. Unidentified ships in orbit. Through the glass ceiling, streaks of fire lit the sky, human ships sleek and black. Kale burst into the hall. Ryan, what's happening? Ryan turned, guilt shadowing his face. They weren't supposed to come this soon. Lyra and Seren arrived, pale and breathless, clutching the stolen archive sphere. Father! Lyra shouted. We know the truth. Humans came from us. The king's eyes darkened. And now they return to finish what we began. Ryan faced him. No, they came because they detected the beacon from the trial. They think Zerathia is a threat. The king's armor activated, humming with blue light. Then they are right to fear us. The breaking point. The palace trembled again, missiles tearing through the atmosphere. Ryan grabbed Kale's arm. "Get your sisters to safety. And you?" she asked. "I'll stop this before both our worlds burn." He sprinted toward the command deck. Guards tried to stop him, but every system he touched obeyed him, the human and Zerathian codes merging in his blood. On the main screen, human commanders appeared. "Captain Hale, stand down." "Mission directive, eliminate hostile species," Ryan shouted. "They're not hostile." "Cancel the strike," static. "Then not possible." Signal confirms Zerathian weapon activity. Ryan closed his eyes. The truth hit him. The beacon from the trial hadn't just sent a message, it had marked Zerathia as enemy. He whispered, "We were never just explorers. We were bait." The King's Fury Varen stormed into the chamber, his armor glowing like molten silver. "Your people bring war to my skies, human. Is this your peace?" Ryan faced him. "If we fight now, both sides die. Then so be it." The King roared. He raised his staff, firing a bolt of light. Ryan countered, blue energy erupting from his hands. The two forces clashed, tearing the room apart. Kyle and her sisters arrived just as the blast threw them both to the ground. Smoke filled the air. The King rose slowly, wounded but standing. "You cannot stop what has begun." Ryan, bleeding, met his eyes. "Maybe not, but I can change how it ends." He reached toward the central control core and whispered a single command. The entire palace went silent. The defense systems powered down. The human fleet halted mid-strike, Kyle gasped. "What did you do?" Ryan's voice was faint. "Linked every system to my heartbeat. As long as I live, neither side can fire." Lyra stared. "You've made yourself the balance." Ryan smiled weakly. "Maybe that's what humans were always meant to be." The last light outside, the sky glowed with suspended fire. Missiles frozen mid-flight, energy bolts hanging like stars. Inside, Ryan collapsed. Kale caught him before he hit the floor. His eyes flickered between gray and blue. "You said fate was control," Kyle whispered. "So what's this?" "Choice," Ryan murmured. "The one thing they could never program." And then the palace lights dimmed to silence. Far above, the human fleet held position, waiting. On the planet below, a single heartbeat now carried the weight of two worlds. The marriage and the message. The sky above Zerathia no longer burned. The human fleet hovered in silence, weapons cold, engines humming like distant thunder. And at the heart of the royal palace, one man's heartbeat held it all still. The stillness, Ryan lay motionless on the marble floor, his hand glowing faintly blue. Each beat of his heart pulsed through the planet's network, keeping peace alive by sheer will. Kyle knelt beside him, trembling. "Stay with me, human. Don't you dare die now." Lyra and Seren stood behind her, silent. Around them the palace flickered, half alive, half broken. Suddenly Ryan's eyes opened, dim gray again. "Is it over?" Kale nodded through tears. "For now," he tried to smile. "Then maybe it's finally time to live." But the King's voice cut through the quiet. "Live? You've made yourself a weapon, not a man." Varen stood at the entrance, his armor cracked, his face pale but proud. "You think you stopped a war," he said. "All you did was delay it." Ryan pushed himself up slowly. "Then use the time I bought to change what happens next." The King studied him, this fragile creature holding two civilizations hostage with a single heartbeat. Then to everyone's shock, he bowed his head slightly. "Perhaps I have judged too soon." The royal union days later, under the pale light of the twin moons, the royal court gathered once more. But this time there were no cheers, no music, only awe. At the center of the grand hall stood Kale and Ryan. Their marriage was no longer a royal command. It was a symbol. The bond between human will and alien heart. The King lifted his staff. "By blood and by choice we join what was divided. Let this union mark the dawn of a new age." The crowd bowed as the two stood before the ancient flame. Kale whispered, "You never wanted this, did you?" Ryan smiled faintly. "No. But maybe fate got one thing right after all." As the light touched their hands, a surge of blue and gold energy filled the hall. It wasn't magic, it was resonance. Two species, two worlds syncing for the first time in history. The message outside, the energy spread into the sky, reaching the orbiting human ships. On every display, a signal appeared, simple and clear. No victory, only unity. The human commanders hesitated. Then, one by one, their ships powered down weapons. A message was relayed back to Earth. Contact stabilized, awaiting further orders. But Earth's response was instant and chilling. Continue Phase 3. Retrieve the specimen. The betrayal far above the celebration, one ship descended silently. The Odyssey, a human flagship carrying the project leaders. They weren't soldiers. They were scientists, the architects of humanity's evolution program. Target located, a voice said through static. Begin extraction. Ryan felt it instantly, a pull deep inside his chest as if the planet itself was trying to tear him away. He staggered, gripping the railing. Kale caught him. Ryan, what's happening? They're trying to take me back, he gasped. Earth? They still think I'm theirs. The king raised his staff, but Ryan shook his head. If you fight them, they'll destroy everything. I have to end this my way. He turned to Kale, his voice soft but fierce. Do you trust me? With my life, she whispered. Then listen carefully. He placed her hand on his chest where the blue light pulsed. This energy, it's not just power. It's memory. Every human who ever lived, every Zerathian who ever dreamed, it's all here now. If they take me, it dies. If I release it, it becomes everyone. Kale's eyes widened. You'll die. Maybe, but I'll never be gone. The sacrifice, he closed his eyes. The palace trembled. Light surged through every crystal, every stone, every living thing. From orbit, the human fleet saw the planet ignite, glowing brighter than any sun. Lyra shouted, He's overloading the network. Serane's voice broke. He's turning himself into a message. The king fell to his knees, watching the light rise. What have we done? Ryan's voice echoed across every mind, human, Zerathian, and machine alike. You built me to evolve, so I did. But evolution without empathy is extinction. Remember that. The light burst outward, sweeping across the stars. Every ship, every sensor, every heart felt it. And then, silence. When the light faded, Ryan was gone. Only the faint hum of his heartbeat remained in the air, pulsing through the world like wind. The new dawn weeks later, peace treaties were signed between Earth and Zerathia. The king stepped down, giving rule to his daughters. Lyra led the Council of Wisdom. Seren healed the wounded with her rediscovered empathy. And Kale stood every dawn on the same balcony where Ryan once watched the stars. She whispered each morning, You kept your promise. Human. The sky above shimmered with a new constellation, 7 bright stars forming the shape of a heartbeat. Scientists called it the hail signal. It pulsed once every hour, like a living reminder that unity had a price. And somewhere, deep in the void, a final transmission echoed, faint, human, eternal. Phase 4. Hope.